Hi, it's Dr. Lori, the PhD Antiques Appraiser, and I'm back with more Dr. Lori's Treasure Hunt game. Good to see you. Thanks for being with me live. It's good to be with all of you. So we're going to get right started with the Treasure Hunt game. You know how you play. You're going to ask questions about an object. We're going to talk about it, ID it, see how good you are at, of course, being a great treasure hunter, thrifter, and of course, yard sale shopper. See if you recognize these pieces. Let's start right here with this one. This is a great piece, really nice for color, of course, and form. All right, I want to show you this. What questions would you ask of this piece? So if you had this piece, you saw this piece, said to yourself, I don't know what it is. How do you figure it out? So let's see what you've got. I'm going to hold it here, and then I'm going to go to the Dr. Lori cam because I know you all love it. Right? What questions have we got for this particular piece? What would you ask first, right? So size always matters, remember, right? So you're going to look and see about how tall it is. What about size of this particular type of piece, right? I'm going to give you the Dr. Lori cam so you can see it specifically, so you can see it well. I'll lay it down on my table. Let's see where we go. There it is. It's a nice piece, right? It's a nice piece, good form. You can see, what is it? And you see what it is? You're all thinking, so funny. You're all thinking, what is it? What is it? Right? So nice form, not too big. It's got a couple of characteristics I want to point out to you. So yeah, it is actually crackle. It's not a condition issue. The crackle that you see, this pattern, is actually when they mold the glass. So they blow actually molded blown glass. That particular blown glass is blown into a mold. And the mold is, of course, this shape. And then it's actually pushed into water. And that's what creates the crackle pattern. You can also do that with sawdust. Sometimes a different type of course, glass working. This particular piece is really quite fine. I want you to look at the bottom here. I want you to look at the space down here. You know, what to look for. I always teach you what to look for, how these pieces actually relate. So I want you to see what to look for. Is it hand blown? It's mouth blown. All right. So it's mouth blown. That idea of hand blown is one of those terms that people came up with. They'll say, oh, is it hand blown glass? Well, you're going to use your hands, right? But you're going to mouth blow it through a blow rod, right? A blow rod. So that's what you're looking at in terms of this particular piece. So questions that you might ask, is it cracked? So condition is always a very good question. Paige, it's not art glass. Art glass is a totally different type of thing. This would not be considered art glass. This is manufactured glass. It's not a shot glass either. You could put a little bit of liquor in it if you wanted to, but it's not considered a shot glass. It's for decoration for the most part. This particular piece is crackle glass. Is mouth blown glass worth more? Worth more than what? That's always the question. So you ask these open-ended questions. Worth more than what? Is it worth more than manufactured glass? Glass that's functional and used for everyday use? More than what? So remember, we're looking at that idea of the old saying of art for art's sake. So you want to think about that. This particular piece, one of the questions I saw come up was, how old is it? Right? How old is it? Dates to the 1950s, about 1955. How do you know that? Does it have a pontil? It does have a pontil, and the pontil has been actually smoothed down. So I'll show you the pontil so you can see it. Got you the pontil so you can see it. There's the pontil. You see it? It's been smoothed down, right? It was relatively sharp at one point. And remember, over time, this particular piece has been placed onto a shelf, right? Or maybe in a curio cabinet or a china closet, right? So this particular piece sat there. It is not one of a set. It stands alone. So a lot of you are thinking, is it one of a set? It kind of looks like maybe there's other. Why is it green? Green is the color that the glass maker decided. It's called olive green, in fact. It's different from moss green. It's different from Kelly green. It's different from what we might consider green. You know, it's kind of like the crayon box, all the different kinds of greens. So olive green, moss green, and such. It's a nice piece. Notice the black area here at the bottom portion where you actually see an area that looks and reads black, and then it starts to come up and looks green. So it reads black down here. and then it comes up and it reads this olive green color. And then notice too, the way in which the handle is attached. The handle is clear glass, and the handle being clear glass, in fact, is different. And you typically will see that applied after the fact. So they blow the cylinder part first, right? And do the crackling. And then after it cools, they anneal, right? They actually attach, and it is allowed to anneal or cool down. So that's what you're looking at. What other questions have you got about it? It's a good piece. It's a nice piece. And I bet a lot of you have seen this piece or pieces like it, of course, in a lot of the thrift stores, antique shops, as well as booths and such. Is it a bud vase? You could use it as a bud vase. I think a lot of people sort of use glass in all different ways. Some people just put it out for display. Some people would use it as a bud vase. Some people would use it, in fact, as a drinking glass because of the handle. Vases don't usually have handles unless they have two. What part of the world is it made in? It's made in the United States. It's made in West Virginia. Specifically, it's made in Serrato, West Virginia. Now, do you know who made it? That should tell you who made it. Does the muted color mean that it's the 1970s? Well, crackle glass was very popular in the 1970s, but I just told you that it's from the 1950s. Maybe you just joined us, Beth. But yeah, from the 1950s, that's when this piece is. But again, certain color schemes do relate to certain decades. So that tells me when you say that about the 70s, and of course, muted colors like olive and that kind of thing, that tells me you're watching the videos, you're using the Binge Link. Don't forget to use the Binge Link. It will help you to get all of the videos and all the information that I'm giving you. The Binge Link is easy to find, of course. If you're a subscriber, it's easy to find. It's in the description. And I appreciate, of course, you using the Binge Link and enjoying the videos. I'm Dr. Lori, the PhD Antiques Appraiser. What other questions do you have about this piece before we figure out what's it worth? It's Dr. Lori's treasure hunt game. I want you to understand what you can find, what you should look for, what you can pass by. Is it Serrano glass? No, it's not Serrano glass. This piece is made by the Pilgrim Glass Company of Serrato, West Virginia. Oh, okay, Dr. Lori, I might have heard you wrong. This is a piece of Pilgrim glass. You probably heard of Pilgrim glass, right? Rosemary saying it's Pilgrim glass. That's right, Rosemary, it's Pilgrim glass. Right? Nice piece, good condition, right? There's no elements. I want you to notice how thin and thick it is. It's very thick at the bottom. It's quite thin at the top. You'll notice also the way in which the crackle starts to change as it moves up to the top. That just depends on how it was submerged, basically. And notice this too. It kind of moves a little bit. I don't know if you're seeing it well, but it kind of has a little bit of a wobble. It won't fall down, but it could be considered a weeble. Okay. Hi, Karen. My name is actually Jen. Karen was your mother. Oh, okay. Thank you very much for the super chat. I inherited 6th-generation antique dealer, hoarded house. Wow. Been so overwhelmed. Don't be overwhelmed. I can help you. Finding you last week, an absolute blessing. I'm binge walking. God bless you. Oh, Karen, Jan, don't worry. I'll help you. There's a lot of information. I'm glad you're binge watching. Thanks for using the links. And thanks for recognizing how important and the channel is to you and how it supports you. And thank you for supporting the channel. I appreciate that too. So good luck to you. If you need help, you know how to get in touch with me. You can always get in touch with me here or, of course, on our website. Oh, alligator glass. Some people call this alligator glass because it kind of looks like that alligator skin. There's lots of names for glass, you know. I was talking to somebody today on a video chat, and we were talking about orange peel, that kind of decorative element that looks like an orange peel on glass. So there's lots of names like that. Alligator glass. This is called crackle glass. And crackle glass is very popular from the 1950s into the 1960s. The color of it, is it a common color or a rare color? It's a typical color of the time period, in fact. It relates to, of course, Mediterranean glass. We all know the big Mediterranean glass name. You all know it, Murano, right? This particular piece relates to that, but this is an American piece of glass. It's a nice piece. Good questions. You're asking smart questions tonight. Why is the handle so low? I think the handle is so low because it's actually relating to where they could place it here. So it's a nice big blob of glass when it goes down, and then it comes up and it gets thinner, but it actually creates the balance so the whole thing doesn't fall over. Because if it didn't have, then we'll show you how close it really is. If I can get to it. Let me see if I can get to it. There it is. How close it really is to the bottom. You know, right at the bottom there, you're seeing it's almost right at the bottom. Sorry about the Dr. Lord, can't want to get my hands there. See, it's almost right at the bottom, the way in which that particular handle is attached. So that's what you're looking at. And I think if they were put it up up higher, the whole thing would fall over one way or another, so you don't want that to happen. Good question, though. And these are the kinds of things I want you to do. I want you to get involved with the object. People always say to me, there's no damage on this piece, Paige. People always say, Dr. Lori, I don't know what you look for. I watch your events and I watch you do this. And, it's like a mirror. It's like amazing what you can do. Well, I get involved with the object. I touch it. I feel it. I look at it. I try to figure out, okay, what is happening with this piece? Is it in good condition? Is it stable? Is it secure? All these kinds of things. And then the research comes, because you can't just go, looking at picture after picture after picture after picture of what people put up that might be a correct identification and might not be a correct identification on the internet. You'll spend your life going picture after picture after picture, photo, photo, photo. It's not the way to do research. You have to get involved with the object. And that's what you're doing by asking these questions. And that's why I'm asking you to ask these questions to figure out more about this particular piece. And we do one by one. And people have fun. And a lot of people oftentimes say to me, Dr. Lori, we had one of those. Pieces like this were oftentimes on a kitchen counter. Maybe they were on a kitchen shelf in the 1950s. It's small purposefully. The idea is not for it to be overwhelmingly large. They don't really see those very, very big ones until later. It is a form that a lot of you are probably not as familiar with. Most crackle glass forms you usually see have a bulbous body. Then they come up like a thin neck, and then they flare out, and they usually have a handle as well. You see those all the time. This one's a little bit more different. This one's a little bit more unusual for you, and that's why I wanted to select this piece. And, I select pieces that are going to teach you things for each one of these. I want you to get your best out of it. Get your best out of it. Okay, what do you think it's worth? You know a little bit about it. It's a Pilgrim glass, crackle glass piece. It's got a handle here, which is not crackle glass, which is clear glass, which is applied after the fact, after they do the crackle. It's made in the United States. It dates to the 1950s. What do you think it's worth? When you're thinking about value, I want you to think about other pieces and their particular value and how this particular piece relates to those pieces. So people are saying, well, what do you mean? Well, I want you to understand that you're looking at these pieces and I want you to analyze the market. And people say, well, okay, I'm going to analyze the market. Look at the other pieces that are familiar to you. The ones that you've always seen of crackle glass that you think, oh, I know what that is. That's a little crackle glass picture and I've seen them before. Is this one the same as those? Run of the mill? Is this one unusual for some reason? And what are those reasons? What kind of condition is the one that you think to be accurate? What that kind and what's this kind? So I want you to have an understanding of all of that. Now, I want you also to know where this fits into the pieces that are made by Pilgrim Glass. You go, oh, that's basically called understanding the artist's oeuvre or the artist's career work. So whether it's an artist, like Picasso, or whether it's a manufacturer like the Pilgrim Glass Company, you have to know where this fits in. Why did they decide to make this? What were they trying to achieve? What kind of market were they trying to skew toward, right? And that's what you start to see with a piece like that. No, it was not a set. It was not a set. Good question. A lot of people will think, oh, they're sets and they're all different colors, right? A lot of people will see that kind of thing. They stood alone. They could be placed into a set, make a set, but they stood alone. Right? So some of your values are pretty high. Some of your values are pretty low, right? Ralph's already ready to throw it into the dumpster. This is Dr. Lori's Treasure Hunt. I want you to understand and know what treasures to pick up when you're at the thrift store, right? So you understand that's what this game is all about. So you're going to resell something, or maybe you're just trying to make your house look beautiful and you love antiques and you love vintage stuff. You say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to have it this way. Carl is here. He says $10 because Carl's lazy. You're lazy, Carl. You want me to tell you what it's worth? Are you ready? Are you all finished guessing? This particular piece is worth $60. So Carl would be lazy based on actual sales records where similar pieces have sold, not where they're listed. If they're listed too low and you consistently see that, usually that means the folks have not done their research to understand where the market is. It's the actual sales record that you want to look for, and you want to make sure that that sales record is authenticated. So you can't just go by any old sales record. You got to make sure you got an authenticated sales record. That was a good one. I know you love glass. I love glass too. It's a lot of fun for that. The other thing that a lot of us love is actually jewelry. And I want you to remember a couple of things as you're using things like this. Oh, Mick, I'm so happy to teach you so much. I had a wonderful time, of course, teaching all of you on all of my videos. and of course, teaching in all different ways. But more of it is we have fun, we play our games, we learn more about antiques, and you guys go out and benefit. I've been hearing a lot from many of you video callers today who were saying, Dr. Lori, you're really going to help us because you're going to help us understand how to collect art. I spent time on a video call today talking to some folks who wanted to know the difference between collecting originals and collecting prints. They also wanted to know the difference between if they wanted to collect one artist versus another. In their case, it was Picasso versus Salvador Dali. Which road should they go down? And it was very wonderful. And they said to me, we want to amass this collection so we can hand it down to our children. It's wonderful. So Hilda says she's seen those in antique balls for around $20, LOL, so she thinks it's funny. Well, if you think it's funny, I don't think it's funny. I think I'd buy them for 20 and flip them for what it's really worth. And that's the other thing you have to remember. In different places where there are a lot of them, right? Like in West Virginia, where there are a lot of them, you could see values that are lower, prices that are lower. You put them into the correct market and you're going to make more money. So what you've seen and what actually has happened in the marketplace are two different things. And you see that a lot. You're seeing it more and more. You're even seeing it, of course, in all the markets, whether it's the real estate market or the stock market or the antiques and collectibles market. So other things. But when I talk to, of course, folks on video calls or when I help them with any of our services, I like people to understand what their goal is. So I always say kind of identify the goal, visualize the goal. What are you trying to do? If you're trying to get $60 out of this particular piece of crackle glass, for example, and you see an opportunity where you see them priced at only 20, well, guess what? You're going to be able to make 3 times more or 2 times more, right? You can actually make more money if you take that opportunity. You might also say, oh, I don't think it's worth that. And I don't know if it's worth my time to make that much. I might be able to make more money on what? Jewelry, artwork, furniture. Glass is good, but the margins are bigger. So J-Pal loves glass, sold a piece of green mid-century glass today and got trolled. Oh, thanks for instilling confidence in me. Well, thank you very much for your super chat. Whenever you have these problems, whenever you got these problems with these pieces, I want you to think about these particular pieces and how you're selling these pieces. I want you to have the confidence. I'm here to instill the confidence. And with the information, which is powerful, you'll have the confidence. A lot of you have been telling me that. Dr. Lori, I'm making a solid income. Dr. Lori, I'm understanding. Dr. Lori, I know what questions to ask. I might not have all the answers you've been telling me, but I know what to ask and I know how to get the information. I'm learning research skills. I'm learning and understanding how business actually works. A lot of folks don't understand how it actually works. In addition to my background, of course, I've been a business person for a long time in major museums and, of course, am familiar with how, of course, art and antique auctions and other connections actually work in the business world. Hi, Jay. And keep in mind, most antique stores are individual vendors who may or may not know what they are doing. Well, you said it, Jay. A lot of people do know what they're doing, and a lot of people don't. And a lot of people also feel, well, I didn't get it for much, so anything is gravy for me. I always say you want to get what the market will bear. Just because you didn't pay a lot for it and you want to just get rid of it, it's always a good idea to get what the market will bear, right? And work at that. But thank you for pointing that out. Down the hatch, thanks for the super sticker. I hope that you are enjoying the videos and I hope that you're learning from the videos. I hope you will take time to subscribe. And for the subscribers on YouTube, of course, there's a lot of things like that you can see. The subscribing is really easy. All you have to do is hit the button and subscribe. And of course, that will also bring you to the community tab. But subscribing is easy. When you're watching a video, go down and subscribe, and that will help you get all the other videos. So you're not searching for this and searching for that. You can be part of the channel and part of the community. And on the community, of course, there's the community tab, right? The community tab is where I put the extras. Extra information, extra, of course, illumination, extra all types of extras. It's been discounts and all kinds of things on the community tab. And the community tab is easy to find. It's right there near the playlists, right there on the channel. And the community tab has the extras and you can see it. I'm so glad you're here with me live. It's always fun to have you here with me live. And I love to do these live shows as well. One of the other things that we really love. Hi, Rosemary. Thank you for the super sticker. I hope you're doing well. A couple of things that we really love. I always say, art, furniture, precious metals, including jewelry. I always say vintage pieces are going to hold their value. Angela, thank you for the super sticker. I appreciate that too. But jewelry is one of the things that you will see. You'll see, of course, precious metals go up and down. Silver will be up and then silver will be down. And of course, gold will go up high, and then it'll come down. And it's the way it actually works. But some of the things that I want you to talk about, I want to talk about our next treasure. And thank you very much. Oh, you're going to have a video chat with me? It's exciting. It's a lot of fun. I had a mom and a daughter team of course, resellers who had a video chat with me today. And they started off by crying. They were so cute. They were wiping their eyes. They were excited. And then we had a lot of laughs and a lot of fun. They learned a lot of stuff about serigraphs with the video call too. They said, we have a lot of stuff and we want your help. So I'm here to help. Anyway, we're playing Dr. Lori's Treasure Hunt game. Thanks for joining me. I know you all enjoy it. Most of you watch it, of course, when I do this on regularly every week here. And of course, you've also seen me do that on network TV all across the United States. So thanks for joining me there too. Here's what we've got. This is our next piece. And this next piece, I'm going to just tantalize you a little bit. Let you take a look at this piece. And this particular piece, what questions would you have about this piece, which would go right here, just like that, with the clasp? Thanks for all the info. Looking for quality has helped a lot. Well, good, Beth. Thank you so much. It's nice of you to, of course, support the channel. And any time that you folks do that, you're supporting the channel. You're allowing us to make more videos. And of course, folks understand that, our time is valuable. Your time valuable too. And of course, it's supporting the staff here. And it's also supporting, of course, editors and everybody who's making quality videos, not videos that are not going to give you the information that you don't need. We're giving you the information that you do need. When I was in the news business, I would say, it's news you can use. It is gold. This particular piece is 14 karat gold. It is signed. It is also marked. What does the clasp look like? Let's look at the clasp. Jay Wonder wants to see the clasp. I'm going to show you the clasp on the Dr. Lori cam. Here we go. Here's the clasp. It has a security clasp too. That clasp right up here, of course, right here is the security clasp. You push that down. And where do you push it? Well, you push it onto that little knob right there. So it gets placed inside. It's a male and a female, right? So it gets pushed inside and then you close the clasp. So it goes like this. Well, let's see if I can get it. Bear with me. Do you see it? The male and the female. And then this portion, once it's put together, in fact, you will push this area, this little element, back onto that little ball. Okay? And that's how it stays secure. I want you to notice while we've got this shot that this is a particular link. You have to learn the links. And people go, oh, I thought this was bracelets, not golf, Dr. Lori. Yeah, it's not golf, not the links, but the links. So you have to learn the links. So if you looked at this and you had to describe it for a listing, if you're going to resell it, what would you call it? It's marked 14 karat gold. What would you call it? Hi, Crystal. Thanks for the super sticker. I appreciate it. So what would you call it? What does it look like? Describe it. Try to be as descriptive as you can. It's a security clasp, right? It's a security clasp. And if you look at the Dr. Lori cam, you can see brick lay or herringbone. It's not herringbone. It's closer to a brick pattern. Can you see it? I'm going to go very slowly so you can see it. And as you see that pattern, this is why this particular piece is going to be extremely interesting to people. Every single one of those little bricks has a little pin that is hand placed into the brick to actually keep the bricks together. Okay? As I said, it's marked 14 karat gold. It's also marked with a maker's name. And I'll show you the maker's name here. I don't know if we'll be able to get it. It's quite small. We might have to drop it in for you. You can see the 14K. You can see the 14K. You could see Italy, which is where it was made, and you can see the maker's name as well. Okay? So these are the questions that I want you to ask. You've asked some great questions. You've asked some great questions about it. Now, how big is it? It's going to matter. Is it 7 inches, which is standard? It's not a basket weave. It's a brick. There's a difference. And people go, oh, God, Dr. Lori, what's the difference? They're nuances, right? Basket weaves usually are curved a little bit at the bottom. Subway tile, some people might call it subway tile, but you have to do that. Subway tile is for tiles. When it comes to bracelets like this, it's a brick lay or a brick pattern. So you have to know it for different materials. If you saw the same pattern, it was on your backsplash, you'd call it a subway tile. Oh, God, Dr. Lori, it has to be different so you understand that it has a different vocabulary. You know, I've talked to you about vocabulary before. So this particular piece is actually made in Italy, and the maker's mark is right on it. And you can see that the entire clasp is also 14 karat yellow gold, right? How many grams? Andrea, very good question. The gram weight will directly relate to value. However, the gram weight relates to value based on whether or not you're going to, of course, smelt it or melt it down. Smelt weight or the grams relate to that. Also relates to, of course, how heavy, how valuable the piece is based on the value or what the going rate for the precious metal is, right? So Lori loves it. A lot of people love jewelry. Jewelry is really typically a very good investment as well. And they're pieces that are usually handed down. Looks like the marks were pretty worn. The clasp looks vintage at least. Okay, what's vintage to you? So now we're going to talk about age. How old do you think the piece is? Do you think the piece is, in fact, from the 1950s, from the 1980s, from the 19 teens? How old do you think it is? This particular type of clasp, maybe you would ask yourself the question, when was that clasp actually introduced? When did we see that clasp? And here's an image for you of the clasp closed so you can see what it looks like. You can see how that clasp is now closed. The bracelet is closed. And you can see the pins are very strong because it's all very straight. Does that help you identify age? You know, if the pins are still very straight, will that help you identify age? So these are some of the questions. What else do you want to know? So far, we know it's 14 karat gold. So you're saying it might be the 1970s, okay? The 1950s. It's not from the 1950s. It's younger than the 1950s. It's younger than the 1960s. It's actually younger than the 1970s. Dr. Lori, really? Classic piece. It's early 80s. Kim, it's early 1980s. That's right. It's an early 1980s piece, Italian made. It's a very significant weight, quite heavy. Some of them are very thick. This one is standard size, right? So you want to think about the grams. That's a good thing, but don't only think about the grams because when you melt something down, Lori, thank you so much, Lori, for always supporting the channel. Everyone should thank everybody who's supporting the channel because they're all helping you to help me make new videos. So thank you. What I want you to remember is, in fact, the way in which these particular pieces were made. When you melt something down, you say, oh, I don't need that silverware. Or, I don't need that bracelet. I'm going to melt it down and get the smelt weight just based on gram weight. You lose the antique value. You lose the vintage value. You lose the design value. And when you lose those types of values that are related to a piece, you devalue the piece. So I always say when it comes to vintage objects, antiques, and such, when you melt something down, you lose a lot of value. Okay. You don't only want it for the man. What do you think it's worth, people? What do you think it's worth? Can you guess the value? You had some very good questions. You asked good questions about it. You wanted to know about time period. You wanted to know about maker. You wanted to know about, of course, the way in which the piece is made. So from the 80s, $1,200. $1,200. We've got a lot of $1,200 is here. $1,500. Today's market, right? Based on what other people will pay for a similar bracelet. These bracelets are now considered estate bracelets, vintage bracelets, right? So you're saying, oh, okay, this is a pretty nice amount of money. Here's where some of the other value is. Some of the value has to do with the labor that is so intensive in making every single one of these individual pieces and then putting individually every single one of those pins in to make sure. 600, way too low at 600. You have not been buying jewelry now or before. So 600, way too low. You know, little pair of gold earrings are going to be $600. Oh my gosh, Dr. Lori, yes. This is why I always tell you when you're in that thrift store, look for the mark, look for the gold. This is why I tell you, this is why you should be watching the latest video, all about valuing vintage and antique jewelry. So brick lay pattern, Italy made, early 1980s, right? So Annabelle thinks it's 3,200. All right. So what's it worth? The piece is worth just about, I would never guess. I would ask Dr. Lori in a chat. Well, Mick, that's great. You should ask me in a chat. You can ask me all different ways. You can ask me, of course, here. You can ask questions, of course, with the chats. And as long as you're not guessing, I'm going to tell you the value. The value is beautiful. It's a wonderful piece. It's in very good shape. It's from the early 1980s, prior to 1983. This particular piece is a nice piece. Again, I want to show you the thinness and the thickness. It's about 7 inches. It's about 7 inches long. Sometimes some of these bracelets will be 8 inches. So that extra inch is more value because it's more material, right? More gold. Thank you, Helen, very much. And my compliments to the class. Education is a valuable resource. Helen, thank you very much. I appreciate that compliment. I'm happy to teach the class, but I'm happy mostly that you guys are learning a lot from it. This particular piece right here, is worth $3,500. It's a beautiful piece. Now, that has to do with today's market, of course, based on actual sales records today for this particular 14 karat gold piece. It's a beautiful piece, and it's one that is classic. Remember, classic pieces rather than trendy pieces are going to maintain their value better. Trendy pieces are great. They say something of a time period, but you want to think about those classic pieces, all right? And some of these that you will see them in very good shape. If you see them and they have little elements that are basically knotted or they look like they're not all straight, then you want to usually take them to a jeweler to see about straightening them out. But that's a beautiful piece. What to look for is important. It's important that you look for the consistent, right, patterning. It's important that you look for high quality, which will be shown to you by marks as well as by design. It's important that you look for the clasp, which is a security clasp. You don't want it falling off your wrist, and you don't want it falling off the wrist of someone who you might have sold it to or who you might have given it to as a gift. So a beautiful one. And if you have some new jewelry, I hope you wear it in good health. So the other things that I wanted to talk with you about with respect to knowing your object, I have a couple of objects here from one of my favorite places, Japan, particularly Tokyo. And Tokyo, I've got, of course, Hello Kitty, and Hello Kitty is back here too. She's back here on this particular tote bag. Did you see the new Dr. Lori tote bag? It's out there too. And I hope you take a chance to go over and see that at the Dr. Lori store here on YouTube. But one of my favorite places is, of course, a very busy place because I'm a very busy person and I like busy. And it, of course, is Tokyo. And I was in Tokyo in 2019, and there I am in the middle of the Shibuya crossing, which is called the Shibuya Scramble, where everybody is in this big intersection, the busiest intersection in the world, and everybody's going which way to try to get to the other side of the street. And I always tell you that I want you to be in those places and picture yourself in those very famous places. It's a very famous place, of course, in Tokyo, Japan. And you can see that it is, of course, a shopping mecca, one of many in the city of Tokyo. And Tokyo, of course, is connected like many major cities by, of course, subway system. And the subway station is just right there. It's just right there. And you can get on and off at all these different shops. And I want you to think about, when I always talk to you about souvenir shopping, I like you to think about buying something that's of the place. So get something that you can only get because you were there. And in fact, here's one of the examples. In that same spot, high above the intersection where I'm standing, you can actually see Starbucks coffee behind me. And that Starbucks, actually, you walk in and you go up these stairs, and you actually can get into what is really a very, very tiny area where you can sit at the counter and just overlook that very busy intersection. It's like the epitome of people watching, and there's lots of people to watch. So one of the things that I thought was really cool there was actually to get some coffee from there. It's a Tokyo roast, the Tokyo roast from Starbucks, as you're overlooking, of course, Shibuya Scrambles crossing. It's a wonderful part of course, that part of Tokyo. Tokyo was really fun. The subways were very, very efficient. I enjoyed that. And I got from place to place to place. And you can even be shopping in the subways. If those of you who have been to places like Russia, you know that the subways in Russia are actually, marred with all different beautiful types of artwork. If you've been, of course, in subways in places like New York City, very, very busy, hustle, bustle. But in Tokyo, they're very clean. They're very safe. They're very efficient. And you can even shop there. And you can shop for stuff like this. Yeah, this was actually in a subway shop, right? Not to be confused with a sub shop, but a subway shop where you can get all different types of course, jewelry, costume jewelry, and the real thing is actually bought and sold in the subway stations underground. So you can actually make a whole day of just shopping underground in Tokyo. It's a wonderful place. It was beautiful to just go into their big department stores, huge, 12 floors of department stores in Tokyo, as well as experience the Shibuya Shuffle. It was a lot of fun. The scramble was really fun. So I had a great time there, and I had a great time finding some things that are, you can get them. You can get some of these pieces, again, that are like that place and bring them home, like Hello Kitty. Hello Kitty, of course, dates back to the middle part of the 20th century, and she's very popular everywhere. Did I get a Starbucks mug? No, I didn't, but the coffee I really loved, and I was happy to have a Tokyo, of course, blend, or the Tokyo roast from Starbucks in that place. It reminded me of where I was, I want to make you want to travel. Lori, I want you to travel because it opens up your world. It really does. I've been very fortunate to lecture all over the world on cruise ships and in major museums and other landmarks, architectural landmarks. But I want people to travel because it shows us just how similar we are. And it also shows us places that we can say, I can't believe I'm here. I've stood in places I never thought that little kid in Connecticut would ever get to. So it was really kind of cool to be able to go to those places. And I got to a lot of those places because of loving something, loving art, loving to learn. And it's really, really a lot of fun. And that particular experience was one that I had waited for a long time. So it's wonderful we got to be there. We'll be back traveling again very, very soon. And hopefully we'll all be traveling together and we'll be souvenir shopping too. Do you do an appraisal on an item someone is considering purchasing? Definitely. I have done a lot of that. You can even take me shopping with you. So you're going shopping and you're saying, I want you to be with me, Dr. Lori, to show me what I should shop for. I do that all the time. I have for a long time. And also, if you're looking online and you're trying to decide, is this a good thing from an online auction or from an online store? I do that too. Some of the resellers also ask me to look at their store and see if they're pricing things properly. I do that with a lot of my services. So you can look into that as well. Okay, a lot of fun tonight. Having said that, we're enjoying ourselves and learning more in Dr. Lori's Treasure Hunt. So how did you do? Are you playing against anybody, right? Are you playing against anybody? Would you recommend going with tour groups or solo? If you're going to somewhere new, I recommend that you go with a group. And maybe the group is small. There's lots of small private tours that are great. Oftentimes, when I go, we go on big tours, we go on small tours. If you want to go solo and you want to just do whatever you want to do, you can do sort of a mix. You can choose to do that. I can give you lots of advice about travel tips too. And a lot of times people will say, I just don't know what to do. It's always good to ask. I'm happy to share my experiences with you too. And if you're looking about trying to find great things, you've got to, of course, be smart and ask the right questions. So we want you to ask the right questions and know what's what. Some of the pieces on my table, a lot of you have been asking about, and in a lot of my videos, I've talked about things like the Humpty Dumpty, of course, cookie jar. I've talked about why that was important after World War II. And I've talked about pieces like, of course, the pocketbooks, the small clutches, and other things, how to store your pieces well. I usually talk about glass because we all love glass. But one of the things I want you to think about is accessories. Accessories are one of the great things that I want you to think about when you're looking at these pieces. So here's an accessory for you. Here's our next one. If you were to, in fact, ask questions about this piece, do you think it's a treasure? Should we leave it in the trash? What do you think? My treasure hunt game will show you this next. What are your questions about this object? You see this? Okay. I'm going to give you a close-up here with the Dr. Lori cam so you can see it. I'm going to show you all different aspects of it. You can see this at the top. You can see this. how it's connected. Want to see the underside? I'll show you the underside, because when it comes to pieces like this, you want to see the underside as well. Here's the underside for you. And then I'm going to show you this, if I can get it. So you can see that label. All right? Just so you can see that label. I want you to see all aspects of it. I want you to look at how it's actually sewn, how it's sewn together. All right? So you have an understanding of the quality of the workmanship. Okay? And condition, of course, also helps to tell you about condition. So, questions? Hi, Annabelle. I can't wait till you come my way and give an appraisal on my tobacco leaf vessel. Thanks for educating us all. Annabelle, I'm very happy to do so, and I thank you for your super chat. What do you think? You love hats? You wouldn't toss it. You're not tossing it no matter what. You love hats. Okay. Type of material. What's it made of? What's it made of? So you have to ask yourself, is it velour? Is it corduroy? Is it silk? Is it satin? Is it cotton? You have to ask yourself, so now you have to familiarize yourself with all of these different things. So people would say, Dr. Lori, I can't tell one type of wood from another type of wood. And I tell you, go to one of those big lumber yards and look at the grain of the wood. I say the same thing about textiles. Go to one of the big stores where there's all different types of textiles and look at the difference between something that's corduroy and something that's velour and something that's velvet and something that's velveteen and something that's satin and something that's sateen. People go, oh, that's how you have to do it. Yeah, it's a lot of time in. So when people say, oh, Dr. Lori, do you charge for your time? Yeah, it's a lot of time in. I want you to understand it. But that's one of the ways you're going to tell the difference. And knowing that difference is going to know a quality difference. Does it have any strong odors? That's right. These textile pieces, you want to make sure they do not smell. This one does not have any strong odors. No strong odors on this one. This one is in excellent condition. Condition is king, remember. Is it handmade? Well, it was made with a union label. So someone's hands were on it as it was made. But when we think of handmade today, that's right, it has a union label on it, which I showed you. So now you have to ask yourself, when did they start with the union label? Oh, that's going to help you date it. Okay? Think about the tips. Think about the tricks that I'm teaching you. I want you empowered. I want you to get it. Because when you do what I can do, all of a sudden you're going to be able to recognize the quality, buy the stuff at low values and resell them high, or keep these beautiful pieces for yourself, right? Hand them down to the kids. Oh, my kids don't want anything. I hear this all the time until you ask the kids and the grandkids. Is it velvet? Elizabeth says it looks like velour. Is there a difference, right? Now, what about this material? What's this for, right? What's this for? All those black union labels are the oldest. Are they older than what? So you say they're the oldest. You say it's worth more than what? You have to have that comparison. So they're older than what, right? That's an old union label. That's right. Is it hand stitched? Certain stitches on this are done by machine and certain are done by hand. So that one's done by hand and that one's done by hand and that one's done by hand. But under here is done by machine, as you can see here. Okay, I'll show you the machine stitch. You will not miss it. Right with that label. See if I can get myself there. Maybe, not sure. Okay. I don't know if do you see this hand? Do you see the machine stitches right above the label? A person's not making a stitch that perfect. A machine is. Excuse my hands. Excuse my gloves. Actually, it's not really my hands. Okay. And then you're going to understand when that starts. So, no, very good order. And then remember, I always think of all the fascinators when we see the royal weddings from London, because, of course, the folks who are living in the United Kingdom and other parts of the world tend to put on hats and tend to have those accessories more commonly than we do here in the United States. So you're saying it's before Jackie O. So let's say before the 1960 campaign, the 1960 presidential campaign. That's a guess. That's a guess, right? Other information, is the netting worn over the face or like wearing it at a funeral? Well, oftentimes the netting here in this particular piece could be actually pushed down like this. It could come all the way over, just like that. It can also come and you could wear it, put the hat on and then wear it just over your face. So it's different ways that it's worn, and you have to make sure that the netting, and that's the proper term for it, that the netting, in fact, is in good condition, that you don't have holes in it, and then you have all of it, because sometimes the netting is very, very long. For the time period that this piece is, this is the proper amount of netting. So there's a tip too. Different nettings, different time periods, and different types of pieces, right? Well, if you want to know all about it, go to the community tab. All the extras and information about this piece, the answer's on the community tab. When you're looking for art, antiques, and collectibles, I want you to look for quality, and I want you to ask the questions here. Don't miss the community tab, because that's where all the extras are. And also, all the information about this particular treasure is also on the community tab. The community tab will give you information, and it, of course, is for all of us subscribers and such. I appreciate you watching. I'm Dr. Lori, the PhD Antiques Appraiser. I'll see you next time.